Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Desert Incarnate Podcast. I'm Nathan, sitting here with my beautiful wife, Mia.
Hey guys, if you're new here on this podcast, we share our daily highs and lows. This is not by any means a highlight reel, but where we share the realities of navigating marriage, faith, and our life together with God's guidance every step of the way.
Yeah, and today we're going to be talking about guarding our hearts.
Yes.
What that actually means biblically, how to set proper boundaries, and why it's not unkind to be intentional about who and what we allow into our lives.
Right, so we're going to break it down into 3 parts, as we do.
Yep.
First, we'll talk about fences and gates, so how to set boundaries that protect your spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being. Second, we'll talk about why who you let in matters, so why the people around you shape you and encourage where you're headed. And then lastly, we'll talk about Jesus as the gate, so, rounding out the metaphor of fences and gates and boundaries and what Jesus teaches us about keeping our hearts safe while still loving others well and having boundaries in that.
Yeah, so let's get into it.
All right, well, let's start with this idea of fences and gates and boundaries. I mean, I love boundaries, all about them, and I really feel like this analogy kind of encompasses everything that we kind of mean with boundaries, because when we talk about boundaries, people often assume that we're saying, well, just cut people off and be unkind, be harsh, be rigid. And while fences are set in place,
They're rigid.
they do have gates. So there is still a flow, but we do have to have some sort of foundation, some sort of line that is drawn, and that's our gates.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, boundaries are biblical. Proverbs 4 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it.
Right.
That means protecting what goes in and what comes out.
Yeah, I mean, think of it like our homes. You have fences around your home to keep things out that don't belong, and you have gates to let in what's good. I mean, you wouldn't leave your front door open just for anyone to traipse in and take whatever they want. I mean, some people do literally leave their doors open, which freaks me out, but in general, when you go to bed at night, we are shutting and locking our doors. We are shutting our windows. Like, there are clear boundaries to our home to protect what's inside.
Yeah, not like I want to wake up and have my couch missing.
I mean, right, but like, we do that spiritually and emotionally. We go to bed or we walk through the day and we don't have our gates shut. We just have the doors wide open.
Yeah.
We don't have boundaries. If someone is constantly negative or tearing us down, bitter, fear-mongering, or leading us away from God, that is someone who shouldn't have full access to our hearts, who shouldn't have full access to our time, and yet the gate is just open to them.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side, like, we need to let people in who encourage us, people who challenge us and ultimately point us to God.
Right, because, if we have our gates shut and we're constantly, like, shutting out people that shouldn't be let in, then it could be like, oh, well, you just have all these fences, you're so rigid, and you're not letting in good people. So that's why there are gates in fences. So just as much as there is a line, there is a gate where we can let in the good and we can let out the bad. And we're not saying to be rude or to be unkind, but Jesus, he tells us to love everyone, but love doesn't mean full access to our hearts. Our hearts are to be guided.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and that brings us to our next point. Who you let in your life determines where you're headed.
Yeah, I mean, 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. That is a Bible verse, guys. You could have the best of intentions, but if you are constantly surrounded by people who don't share your values, who don't care about your faith, who don't care about your future, it's only a matter of time before they start influencing you.
Absolutely. It's like trying to eat healthy, living in a house full of junk food.
Right.
At some point, you're gonna give in.
Yeah, and it's the same thing spiritually. If you are surrounding yourself with people who gossip, with people who are bitter, people who encourage sin, don't be surprised when your heart starts shifting in that direction. And it's the little things, oh, this is okay, oh, that's okay. And then before you know it, you look up and your values and your beliefs and your faith is completely shaped and shifted to accommodate the people that you're around.
Right, and this isn't just about your friends. it applies to what we consume. We're responsible. And that is like the shows we watch,
That's good.
the music we listen to, the social media we engage with. If we constantly fill our minds with negativity, with lust, comparison, that's what's going to come out of us.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to be intentional about who and what you let in. Not in a fearful way, but more of a wise and discerning way. And we've been talking about this for the last couple of episodes. The last episode, we talked about keeping our eyes safe. Episode 36, we talked about comparison. Episode 35, we talked about what we're consuming, and just rounding this out, like this, I guess, little mini series that we've been doing, is just how important it is to be intentional about who and what you let in.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's tie this all back to Jesus, because he actually talks about this very idea of guarding what comes in and out.
Yeah, and John 10:9, it says, "I am the gate." Jesus is referring to himself as a gate.
Yep.
"Whoever enters through me will be saved." So he's telling us there's a fence, and not everyone is allowed to pass this fence, but you can come through the gate. And he's telling us that the way to real life is through him, and he protects those who belong to him, but who come through that gate.
Yeah, and think about it like this. Jesus loves everyone.
Yeah.
But he didn't give everyone the same access. He had his 12 disciples, his 3 closest friends, and there was even moments where he withdrew just to be alone with his Father.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, because when we look at Jesus, like, we should be modeling our lives after Jesus. And if Jesus himself had boundaries, if Jesus, talked about fences, he talked about gates, then that's definitely something that we need to have.
Yeah, so what does this mean for us? It really means we can love people without letting them harm us. We can be kind without letting toxicity in. We can set boundaries without guilt, because protecting our hearts, it isn't selfish. It's obedience.
Amen.
All right, final takeaway. Guarding your heart isn't about shutting people out. It's about protecting what God has given you so you can love from a place of wisdom, not exhaustion.
Yeah, like we said at the beginning with the house, it's about protecting what's on the inside and keeping it safe so that you can be open to the good things, and so that you can be a blessing to those around you. So we really hope that this episode has encouraged you to think about your own fences and your own gates, who and what you're allowing in, and are your boundaries helping you to stay close to Jesus?
Yeah. If this episode resonated with you, let us know. Leave us a review, drop a comment, and share it with somebody who might need to hear it.
Right. And as always, thanks for listening to the Deserts and Garden podcast. Until next time, walk in love,
Live with purpose,
and trust God in every desert and garden. See ya.